Jalen Haralson may just be the best player in the class of 2025, and I think the Indiana Hoosiers have made him their number one target.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. It is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen each and every day. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. As we round out the week here again, appreciate you making us a part of your rotation, becoming an everydayer. Those of you that come back each and every day, you are the reason this podcast is so successful. So thank you so much for being a part of it. We've talked about Jalen Haralson in the past, and it's hard not to because of how good this young man is in the 2025 class. But as you start to look at some of his stats from all these different tournaments and circuits and different things that he's been a part of, it's undoubtedly a guy that Indiana's going after, and I think has made their number one priority, their top prospect. And it's kind of hard not to. It's kind of hard to doubt why you would. All right, we're going to talk about that today. Look at some of his stats from the Nike Eyeball, the EYBL tournaments, right? And look at some of those stats and how that can fit here in Bloomington, and continue to have the conversation of why I think recruits should want to come to Bloomington to use it as a stepping stone to the NBA. There's nothing wrong with that, and I still think that Mike Woodson's system allows that to happen. So we'll have that for you today. Plus, Xavier Johnson worked out with the Indiana Pacers. He had some quotes and comments on that I want to get to, and there was some disagreement yesterday about me saying he could play in the NBA, so I want to talk a little bit more about that as well. And then this was requested, and we'll have this in the final segment, the TBT team for Indiana, the basketball tournament for Indiana. We'll talk about that too, because they've got some big name players, just made another big addition. So we'll have a little bit of fun with that at the end of the show today. Jalen Haralson in the class of 2025. When you look at it right now on 247, you can look on whatever website you want, whatever source and outlet that you feel most comfortable. The Indiana native, right? 6'6", 210 pounds, small forward, rated 98 overall, 5-star, 100%, no doubt about it. The number one player in the state of Indiana, and basically a top 10 player no matter where you look. The 247 rating has him at 11. But then the composite rating has him at 10. So whatever. He's a top 10 player in the country. And he's the number one player from right here in the state of Indiana. And we've talked about how all the big schools are going after him, right? Auburn and Duke and Florida State and all these other big name programs that are going after this guy. But in the class of 2025, that's already stacked, that the Hoosiers are already doing work in, right? You start looking and breaking down what this guy is doing. It is unbelievable. Okay, in the Nike EYBL circuit, in those games, okay, there were some stats that were recorded by 247, and these were recorded by Trevor Andershock, so I'm not taking credit for this. I give credit where it's due. He kept up with these stats for Haralson in 15 of those, the eyeball games, right, the EYBL games. In 15 of these games, are you ready for these stats? It's unbelievable. He averaged 21 points, 7.5 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals in 15 games. Okay, 15 games, he averaged 21 points, 7.5 rebounds, and 3 assists and 2 steals. He did it all. He can score, he can rebound. I'd like to see the passing numbers be a little bit higher, but whatever, you're scoring 21 points. I'm not going to complain about that. And you're doing it on the defensive end as well. He did have a few turnovers, averaged 3 per game. All right, we can clean that up here at the next level. Here's his shooting numbers. All right, shot 42% from the floor, 24% from 3. Not really his thing, but you do want to see that improve over time, especially when he gets to the next level playing college ball. So 42% from the floor, 24% from 3. He did shoot 47% from 2-point range, which is really solid. Shot 73% from the free throw line. And when he was up and around the rim, just under 55%. So you can tell, and if you watch any film on this guy, you know that those numbers, they make sense, right? He's a guy that gets the ball, puts it on the floor. He wants to play inside the painted area. He wants to get out and run. He wants to get up and dunk and lay it up and blow by people and finish strong at the rim. He's going to get fouled. He knocks down his free throws, right, at 73%. That is what you're looking for. That's just the type of player that he is. He's a big, small forward. That's just what he is. And so shout out to Trevor Andershock at 247 for keeping those stats in those 15 EYBL games. But he's taken visits to Auburn already, and he plans on visiting Duke, Gonzaga, Kansas, Missouri, Indiana, fighting for that. All right, Indiana is all over this kid, and they have been for a long time. And so many, I mean, listen to these teams again: Duke, Gonzaga, Kansas, Notre Dame, Indiana. Like, man, these are the biggest programs in the country that are fighting for this kid. But imagine what he could do here. Imagine him walking into 2025 where I don't know what the small forward position is going to look like. Sure, you have Mackenzie Mbako right now, but is he going to hang around another year? I don't know. And you could use him for the 25-26 season, and he could start immediately as one of the top freshmen in the country. He should be in Indiana. He should be a Hoosier. He's from the state. This is one of those things that Mike Woodson has to do. Win the state of Indiana. A, take it back from Purdue, and B, just make it ours again. You can't let the number one player in the state walk down to Alabama or Kansas or out west somewhere. Like, you can't let him walk out of this state and go play for another big-time program somewhere. And you look at this from Haralson's perspective, the Hoosiers put guys like him in the league. You don't think that Mackenzie Mbako is going to be NBA bound after what I think is going to be a huge sophomore season? Come on, man. You already see what Trace Jackson Davis and others like him are doing at the next level. He has a chance to be great here. Haralson could be the guy here in Bloomington for Mike Woodson and this Indiana Hoosiers team in 2025. He's one of the best. He's a top 10 player, the number one player in the state of Indiana. Those stats show it. He's playing against the best of the best, and he's dropping 20 points, 8 rebounds, or 7.5 rebounds, 3 assists per game. I mean, the guy's just unstoppable at times. I'm excited for him, and I really think that Indiana's ramped up the pressure here. They fully plan on doing whatever it takes to get Jalen Haralson on campus as many times as possible and try to get a commitment and a signature out of him. I think he is crucial, and whatever team gets him, you better watch out. Haralson is the real deal. He's the next big thing in college basketball, and I want him to be in Bloomington. Well, coming up on Locked On Hoosiers, we will take a look at what Xavier Johnson had to say after working out for the Indiana Pacers. And as I mentioned, there seemed to be a little disagreement on whether we think he could play in the NBA or not. Give me your comments down below on YouTube. We'll talk about that coming up next on Locked On Hoosiers, so stay tuned. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What the formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay's Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Welcome back into Locked On Hoosiers. I appreciate you being here again, making this your first listen each and every day on the way to work, in the kitchen, in the shower. I don't care. You can listen to it laying in bed at night if you want to. As long as you're here every single day, that's what matters. And I thank you so much for being an everydayer. If you're on YouTube, be sure you like the video, comment down below, subscribe to the channel if you have not. Give you a live update. As we record, we are 3 away from 2,600. Yes, 2,597. So if you're not a part of it, help us get there. 2,600 would be fantastic. Where we were when I took over and where we are now is phenomenal. So thank you so much for doing that. If you're on audio, be sure that you follow us, turn on notifications so you're always a know and aware when a new episode of Locked On Hoosiers drops. We talked yesterday about Xavier Johnson, former point guard for the Indiana Hoosiers, who was working out for the Indiana Pacers yesterday on Thursday. And we were going to wait and see kind of how that went. And Xavier Johnson actually had some comments after he worked out for the Pacers. And so a couple of things that he had to say that I thought were interesting. They asked him about how he found out that he was going to be working out for the Pacers, which, side note, is really, really cool, right? I mean, that's really special for Xavier Johnson to leave the Indiana Hoosiers after a long and what I think was a successful career overall. Yes, it was plagued by injuries, but overall, he did some really good things here. And the fact is, now he's trying to make it at the next level, whether that be the NBA, whether that be overseas, or wherever that may be. He's trying to make it and play professional basketball. And he gets to work out for the Indiana Pacers, the hometown team, which is really, really neat to me. And I think a lot of you understood that and agreed with that part as well. They asked him, when did you find out that you were going to be doing this workout with the Indiana Pacers? And he said, I found out last night. So the night before, he said, I took a nap. He said, I actually just got off a boat with Trace Jackson Davis and Race Thompson, who were back in town. He says, I got off the boat, took a nap, and woke up to, you've got to work out in the morning. It always comes out of nowhere. Everybody's talking about, you've just got to stay ready. And look, that's how it goes sometimes for a guy that, look, he's not a high-profile player on the NBA's radar. He's just not. I still think he can make it in the NBA. I think he could have a role some way, shape, or form. He's not going to be the next Steve Nash, but he has a chance to make it in professional basketball. And whether that's NBA or overseas, that's up to you to decide. I think he could play 8 to 10 minutes on an NBA roster somewhere. Now, I think he could go and play significant minutes overseas, whether that's Europe or China or Japan or wherever, because there's so many leagues nowadays. And look, man, some of those people make some serious money playing professional basketball, and it's not that big of a deal. Who cares? You're a professional basketball player, and you can still make millions of dollars, whether you're playing, I don't care what country, you play in Germany for all I care. And I think Xavier Johnson could find himself doing something like that, and he obviously doesn't want his basketball career to be done. They also talked to him about what Trace Jackson Davis, kind of his experience and how he has learned from that. And he said that Trace Jackson Davis just told me to be myself. He said the workouts are particularly my speed. They're built for me because it's a lot of spacing opportunities and just play and be comfortable. And he also talked about what Mike Woodson told him about these workouts. He said, just be a great teammate. That's one of the main things. Just be a great teammate. Being in the NBA, there's a lot of great players, and every player is the best player. Everybody has a role. Just play your role, which I think goes back to what I'm saying is, look, X isn't going to walk in and be the next Chris Paul, right? The next Steph Curry. He's not going to be anything like that. That's no secret. That's not a hot take here on the show. That's just a fact. But what I do believe is if he can take this advice from Mike Woodson, who coached in the NBA, just go in and be a good teammate. Do the little things. Play hard defense. Get back on defense. Run the floor. Hold your own, right? Take the shots when you're open and make the extra pass. Those are the things that keep guys like Xavier Johnson playing in the NBA longer than a lot of other people. Because let's be real, he doesn't demand the basketball. He doesn't have the right to demand the basketball in the NBA. And I think that's something that can almost save him. I think that's something that will help him and benefit him if he does make it to the NBA. Now, if he goes and plays overseas, sure, I think he has the skill set and the credibility to, demand the basketball a little bit more, command the offense like we saw him do in college when he is healthy. And that's a big part of this thing too. And that's what I said yesterday. I think that I think the NBA will be concerned with his injury problems, with his injury history, because he's got it in numerous times and in different ones and things like that. So we'll see what that ends up becoming. A couple of more questions that they asked him. They asked him, what do you like about the Pacers and what they've done over the last 2 years? Who a team and a franchise that we know this has completely turned it around and really, really becoming a threat in the Eastern Conference. X said, they play fast pace. I think that's my speed, my caliber of speed. I like to play fast pace and get up and down the floor and quick shots, like how they do it, which, yeah, that is true. I mean, X likes to run. He likes to get the ball in his hands. Heck, he ran more than anybody else did on the Indiana team last year, which is something I complained about constantly, is the fact that we didn't get out and run enough when Gabe Cupps was in. We just kind of slowly brought the basketball back up the floor rather than, boom, we got the ball, take off and go, right? Let's try to catch them in transition. Quit playing 5-on-5 basketball. Let's play 3-on-3. Heck, even 4-on-4, if you will. So I agree with X. I think the Pacers would fit his style of play pretty well. They asked him, how have you handled working out for this kind of pre-draft process? He says, quote, I've been working out with Coach Cliff Marshall, the strength coach at IU, and I've been working out with coaches on the floor as well, getting up a lot of shots. And I've been playing with the team a little bit, kind of helping out with the team this last week. I think they've got a good team coming in too. So that's exciting for X to say that. And his last thing that I wanted to highlight here, they asked him, what do you think you've showed in these pre-draft workouts? And Xavier Johnson says, quote, one thing I showed and always can show is I can defend. It doesn't matter if I get stuck in the post. I always try hard to defend every possession, which is something else. As I mentioned earlier, that's what the NBA wants. As crazy and as much as we make fun of the NBA for being lack of defense, right? And the prime example is Luka Doncic right now in the NBA Finals. They still want you to make a stop. They still want you to try, and they still want you to get more stops and don't allow as many points as other people, right? It's the stops above replacement, if you will, type of thing. It's how much better are you on defense than the guy behind you, or even the guy in front of you, for that matter. And those are the things that I think will give Xavier Johnson a chance to play in the NBA. Does he make it? I don't know. Probably not. But I think he's got some skill sets that can give him a shot, that he could survive, that he could play a few years. And then if he wants to continue playing basketball, go overseas, bro. Go play overseas, make your money, enjoy it over there, probably be a pretty good player, be a superstar, whatever, be the next Dwight Howard. I don't care. Go over and do that and then retire and call it a career. So I'm excited for him. I'm in his corner. I'm cheering for him. I hope you are as well. Xavier Johnson, he said he worked out with the Wizards as well, just worked out with the Indiana Pacers, and he's hoping to get a couple of more NBA workouts and eventually, of course, try to make an NBA roster. Well, coming up in our final segment on Locked On Hoosiers, going to talk about something a little different here. The TBT, right? The basketball tournament, the summer tournament that happens every year that Indiana has an alumni team for. Had some requests to talk about this a little bit, so we'll have that for you coming up next on Locked On Hoosiers. Final segment here on the show. Again, appreciate you being here, making this your first listen each and every single day. Like the video, subscribe to it on YouTube, turn on notifications on audio so you never miss a new episode. Had some people asking about the TBT, right? The basketball tournament. And Indiana has an alumni team. It's called Assembly Ball, which is fun. And if you're not familiar with what this TBT is, basically, there's a lot of big name schools and basketball programs that put alumni teams together and they compete in this summer tournament for $1 million. And they compete for a boatload of money. They split it up. They have a lot of fun. And there's a lot of people that enjoy watching the TBT. It's a summer thing. It's summer basketball for folks to sit down and watch former players play on their team and get back in the colors of their team. I mean, you've got Indiana, you've got Marshall, West Virginia, Marquette. I think Auburn maybe has a team. You've got all sorts of teams that play. And then you've got other teams that show up and play too. And look, there's a lot of people that enjoy this. And I love basketball more than most. I do. Basketball is my favorite. That's why I do a basketball podcast. Like, I really enjoy college basketball. I'll be honest. The TBT has never been something that I've just really gotten into. It's never been something I've fully invested in. And I really don't know why. I have no good reason for it, to be honest with you. I've seen games, and I've seen great games in the TBT, but it's never something where I'm like, oh, mark your calendar, here it comes, and I got to sit down and watch every game possible. Just hasn't ever been my thing. Maybe that's because summers are busy. There's other things going on. I don't know. But it is intriguing to look at the Indiana team, which I've kept up with for a while and always, try to watch it, at least see who's on the team and excited about big names that are on it, like right now. And that's what we're going to talk about. Is Jordan Hulse is now on the team, the Assembly Ball team. Of course, former Indiana guard and current staff member is going to be on the team for 2024. A guy that played at Indiana, can you believe it, over a decade ago? Isn't that wild? He played at Indiana 2009 to 2013, but he will be a part of the Assembly Ball team. And think about and look at this roster. All right, here's some guys that are on this team already: Troy Williams, Miller Kopp, Devontae Green, Juwan Morgan, and Yogi Ferrell. Yeah, those are big names on this team. And look, it doesn't always have to be Indiana guys. I've seen other teams where they bring in they bring in guys that have some sort of a connection or somebody that just wants to play and things like that. But you talk about some dudes on that team. I'm excited to watch what they have to offer. And the TBT announced this the other day, announced it on, I believe that was Wednesday, that Assembly Ball, the Indiana alumni team for the TBT, have picked up a commitment from Jordan Hulse to be a player/coach for the squad this summer for the TBT. It says they're not messing around, and you can see all your favorite Indiana alumni back in Indy for the tournament. So, look, it's a lot of fun. It is. It's an event where you get summer basketball, and they do have the cool thing, the ELAM ending, right, where you get to a certain time in the game, and then they add, I can't quite remember how many points they add to whoever's in the lead. They're going to add points to that team's total, and that's the target score. First team to that score wins, which really makes it exciting, because then let's say it's 70 to 65. All right. And at whatever time it is in the fourth quarter, they say, okay, first team to 80 wins. And then they just shut the clock off. You still have shot clock and things like that, but game clock doesn't matter. It's first team to 80. Go. And that makes it really exciting because you get so many game-winning shots. You literally always get a game-winning shot, which is really, really exciting. And so maybe I'll get back into it a little bit this summer. Maybe you've convinced me to give the TBT another chance. And again, it's never been anything that turned me away from it. I just think the summer's got a lot going on, right? And I'm excited for it. And you know what? With Jordan Hulse joining and guys like Yogi Ferrell and the others in there, we'll talk about it here on the show. And look, let me know. Let me know if you want to hear about it some more on the show, because I want to do it for you. If you want it, great. If not, we won't talk about it. But it is cool. And you get to see a lot of old names, right? Not even old, but past names and past alumni. And you get to see some really cool teams. And you'd be surprised at the athletes that play in this thing and the guys that can still play and can still ball and get some shots up at their age. Not that anybody's out there playing at 60, but you know what I'm saying here. It's a cool thing. And so we'll see what happens with the Indiana team, Assembly Ball, which is a fantastic name. And they all have cool names like that have it's basically a play on words with whatever their team is and their school and things like that. The Assembly Ball team reading this right here, will begin the TBT tournament for 2024 in the Butler Regional, with the first game scheduled for Friday, July 19th. So we'll talk about it. We'll have it for you. And hey, we'll keep up with it and try to hang a banner for that too. Why not? We'll talk some more about the TBT as we get closer. So looking at about a month or so from now. So we'll talk about it. And I'm excited for that, for the Assembly Ball and the latest edition of Jordan Hulse to the TBT team. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers. As always, I thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you being an everydayer, being a part of this wonderful community as we continue to grow throughout the summer. As football gets closer, basketball gets closer as well. We'll have more announcements, scheduling news, and hopefully some recruiting things to talk about as well. We'll be back on Monday. So have a great weekend. Back next week, okay? Until then, stay safe, Hoosier fans, and I'll talk to you later.